When did you first know that you wanted to make music?
Oh, when I was about 5 years old.
What can you tell us? What do you remember about how that happened?
Strolling through my Aunt Stella Calhoun, my Uncle Lee Calhoun's home, they had a piano. They were the only people that had a piano in that part of the country. And I walked up to this piano and I picked out a tune and I played Silent Night on it. And my mother walked by and was listening, and she told my dad, she said, Elmo, he's going to be a natural born pianist. And Dad said, yeah, he might be a piano player. And so there's a difference in a pianist and a piano player. I don't know. We're still working on that one.
Why did you choose the piano instead of the much more popular guitar?
Well, I never figured a 6-string instrument to compare with an 88-string instrument. That just didn't impress me that much. I was picking guitar pretty good when I was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. I could pick pretty good guitar. But the piano was fascinating to me, and I knew that was the instrument that I wanted to play and get into, because it was the classy instrument. And it took a long time for people to get the piano put out in front on the stage. It was always somebody with a guitar in their hand, making a chord. As long as they could make a key of G or E and sang a little bit, they were a hit. But to prove yourself to be a hit on a piano was hard to do back in those days, in the 50s, to get started. And Little Richard done it. I did it. And, there's been a few since then. Moon Mulligan did it, but I don't think they ever put Moon out in front with a piano pickup and everything like he could have had, the talent that he did have. He was great. I loved his music.
Why did you travel from Mississippi to Memphis in 1956?
From Faraday, Louisiana to Memphis in 1956? Well, I was reading a lot of magazines about Sam Phillips, Sun Records, who started Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins. And I told my dad, I said, this is the man we need to go see. And we did. We drove down from Faraday, Louisiana into Memphis here and pulled up in front of Sun Records here and came in and auditioned with Jack Clement, who said I could never make it playing piano. If I could play guitar, I might have a chance. He said, but rock and roll was out for me because Elvis had it tied up. I could forget that. I said, well, I don't think so. And I said, I'm a hit. He said, they all say that, son. They all say that. I said, yeah, but I'm not all. I'm different. He said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you're going to have to cut a little demo for me here for Mr. Phillips to listen to, being that he's on vacation in Florida. And he didn't want to do it, but I kind of forced him into it, so to speak.
What role has the church played in your music and in your life?
I love the church. I still do. And it's over the years, I've learned a lot. I've experienced a lot of different thoughts of thinking, without getting in too deep. Or say, I used to be very bad about judging people. I say, you're going straight to hell if you're wrong when you die. And at that time, I think I was right. Now the times have changed quite a bit since then, and people have got more so-called broad-minded. And it's not, it's still salvation, it's sanctification, being saved. You either saved the person, and I'm not trying to get off the music here, I'm just throwing in a little bit of what I think you need to know. It's like I had a chance to talk with Elvis one time up here, And it was the first time I met Elvis. He drove down here to meet me. And we closed the session out. We sang a long time. I think there's a picture back there of me and him and Johnny and Carl. And the last thing I said to Elvis as he was walking out the door, we'd been playing and jamming for about 5 or 6 hours, 3 or 4 hours, something like that. I asked him, I said, Elvis, I want to ask you one thing before you leave. This is on my mind. I just like to know, if you died, do you think you'd go to heaven or hell? And his eyes got real big, and he looked at me and he said, Jerry, don't you ever ask me that again or ever say that to me again. I said, you got it. And I didn't. I never meddled in his business about that again. So,
why do you think it hit such a nerve with him?
I don't know. That's what I asked him. I didn't mean anything by it because I knew he was raised in the same church I was. And I just wanted his opinion of what he thought about it. And apparently it scared him, I think. I know it had me scared, and it still does.
Why was Hank Williams such an influence on you?
Well, he was a stylist. Like Al Jolson was a stylist. Jimmy Rogers was a stylist. Hank Williams was a stylist. They could do any kind of music. They done it their way. They set the styles. And I don't know, there's a lot of singers and a lot of guitar players and there's a lot of piano players and there's a lot of this and there's a lot of that. But I will say, and it's no brag, it's just fact, there's 4 stylists that's been in the world that I've known since I've been living, was Al Jolson, Jimmy Rogers, Hank Williams, and Jerry Lee Lewis. Now, whether that's a blessing or a curse, that's still debatable. But that's the way it is. And I didn't make it that way. God did.
How did you decide to record? Whole lot of shaking going on.
I
walked into the Orangeville one night. I was running late I worked there. And I had Mr. Paul Whitehead on. He played piano himself, and he played trumpet and accordion on Friday and Saturday night. He would play trumpet and accordion. I heard Johnny Littlejohn playing drums, and he was doing and singing a whole lot of shaking going on. Mr. Paul was playing the piano. And I stood there and listened to it, and I done it pretty close to the exact way he done it, word for word. The way he said, stand it in one spot and wiggle it around a little bit. I said, man, that is fantastic. I said, that's a hit. If I ever put on record, that could be a hit. And I knew that had to be recorded when I heard that. And I recorded it, and I put it down that way. And Sam said it never would happen because it was too vulgar and too risque. I didn't know what the word risque meant at the time, but I learned. And it was a hit record. To make a long story short, it was a big one.
Do you remember the first time that you heard Elvis Presley sing?
I sure do. I remember very well a thing called Blue Moon of Kentucky. I was riding along in the car and I heard it come on the radio, and I reached over and turned the speaker up on the car. I said, Daddy, I said, now there is music. There, yeah, now you're hearing something. He said, yeah, we are, that's it. Yeah. He was singing Blue Moon of Kentucky, rock and roll style. I mean, Bill Black on that bass, Scotty Moore on guitar, and it was fantastic, and it was new, it was fresh, and I knew it was something, it had to happen. And if I would have been close to Sam Phillips' place here, as close as Elvis was, I'd have been kicking that door down at the age of 12.
Elvis Presley. He was your good friend. What was he really like?
He's just like I was, crazy. Like a fox. Elvis Presley. He was an entertainer. He was an entertainer's entertainer. He was a professional. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he was a good person. I don't know, Elvis lived kind of in a world of his own. He liked his privacy. And that's his business. To me, that was his business. And to me, I just like to get out and rock on everybody. I'd make every joint in town, and go through every 32 beer joint, fight my way in, fight my way out. And Elvis, he wouldn't do that. He's kind of scared of that. He told me, he said, Jerry Lee, you're going to get killed. Somebody's going to kill you doing that. I said, nah, they ain't going to get me. And he wouldn't venture. But we had good times together anyway.
How did you find the song, Great Balls of Fire?
Well, I said Otis Blackwell wrote Great Balls of Fire for a movie called Jamboree. And I recorded it. I didn't like the recording we had in the movie, so I come back in and recorded it with Sid Stokes on bass, electric bass, on the, I think it was this piano here, it looks like it. And when it was turned around, and he was setting up on the bass following my left hand. He'd never heard the song before. Jack Clement took the cut on it at the booth back there. And I don't remember who was playing drums on it. It seemed like it was Jimmy Van Eaton, and again, it seemed like it was somebody else that was a drummer that I said, what do you do? He said, I play drums. I said, well, can you pull those drums over here and play them? And he pulled them over there, and we took one take on Great Balls of Fire. I said, we got the take now. That's it.
How did rock and roll change the world in the 1950s?
Well, I think rock and roll, it was in the 1950s. From 1950 to 1959, were changed the whole world, and houses and automobiles and food and boys and girls and schools and churches and everything. And rock and roll was a 50% part of changing all of that. Music. Everybody loves good music. And rock and roll was something they tried to keep down, to keep a certain kind of tradition they had going. And there was a few cats like James Dean, Elvis Presley, and Jerry Lee Lewis that was rebel enough to come through.
Along with electric guitars and tail fins on automobiles, 1957 brought to public attention Jerry Lee Lewis. He took the music world by storm. In Memphis, he joined Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins at Sun Records. They would soon be known as the $1 Million Quartet. The three survivors of this group, along with other friends, are gathered today to celebrate 25 years of Jerry Lee Lewis. As the decade of the 50s closed, no one was riding higher than Jerry Lee. But his career soon plummeted when the press had a field day over his 14-year-old bride. The year was 1958. He went from $10,000 a night to $100,000. He played any place an audience would gather. Yet for Jerry, whose daddy had mortgaged the family farm to buy him his first piano, giving up was an unfamiliar term. By 1963, Jerry was back on top. In 1981, a ruptured stomach put Jerry in intensive care for 61 days, but even death was cheated. The legend of Jerry Lee Lewis lives on. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Tennessee Performing Arts Center in Nashville, 25 years of Jerry Lee Lewis, a celebration. With Jerry Lee's guests, Johnny Cash, Mickey Gilley, Chris Christopherson, the Oak Ridge Boys, Carl Perkins, Charlie Rich, and Miss Dottie West. And now, Mr. Jerry Lee Lewis.
Come over, baby, whole lot of shaking going on. Come over, baby, baby, you can't go wrong. I ain't thinking, whole lot of shaking going on. All right, come on over, baby, we got chicken in the bar. it, baby. You can shake it one time for me. Oh, well, the hell odds are come on over, baby. There's a whole lot of shaking going on. Now let's get it down real low. Right. All you got to do, honey, just stand it in one little spot. Then you wiggle it. Wiggle it. Wiggle it. They banded that record on me back in 1956 for saying wiggle it. But it come on through anyway. Let's go one time.